I've always loved hunting. It started when I was a kid. My dad would take me out into the woods before sunrise, and we'd sit quietly in the cold, waiting. There was something peaceful about it, something that made you feel small compared to the forest. But what happened 3 years ago changed that feeling completely. It was late November, just before winter really settled in. I went hunting alone that weekend. I had a small cabin deep in the woods, about a 2-hour hike from the nearest road. No signal, no people, just trees and silence. Exactly how I liked it. That first day was normal. I tracked a deer for a few hours, but lost it near a creek. By sunset, I headed back to the cabin, ate some canned food, sat by the fire, and eventually went to bed. Sometime in the middle of the night, I woke up. At first, I didn't know why. It was just one of those sudden wake-ups where your body feels tense for no reason. Then I heard it. Footsteps. Slow, heavy, circling the cabin. I froze. At first I thought it was a deer, or maybe a bear, but the steps didn't sound like an animal. They were too deliberate, like someone trying not to make noise. I grabbed my rifle and sat up in bed, listening. Step, step, step. It moved from one side of the cabin to the other. Then it stopped. Right outside my door. I held my breath. And then, knock, knock. I felt my stomach drop. No one should have been out there. Not at that hour. Not that deep in the woods. Hello? I called out, my voice shaking. No response. Just silence. I slowly got out of bed and moved toward the window. I didn't turn on any lights. I just peeked through the curtain slightly. At first, I didn't see anything. Then I noticed a shape standing just outside the door. Tall, completely still. I couldn't make out any details, just a silhouette against the faint moonlight. Who's there? I asked again, louder this time. Still nothing. Then, in a low voice, barely above a whisper, "Let me in." I felt my chest tighten. The voice didn't sound right. It was human, but something about it felt off, like it was being forced, like someone trying to imitate speech. "I'm not opening the door," I said. There was a long pause, then the voice spoke again. "Please, it's cold." For a split second I hesitated. What if it was someone lost? Hurt? But something deep in my gut told me not to trust it, so I stayed silent. A few seconds later, the footsteps started again. But this time, they didn't circle the cabin. They walked away. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. At sunrise, I opened the door slowly, rifle ready. There were footprints in the snow, barefoot, and they were wrong. The toes were too long. The spacing was off, almost like they weren't fully human. What scared me the most wasn't that someone or something was out there. It was that it knew how to talk. This happened to my cousin Jake. He's not the kind of person who scares easily. Big guy, grew up hunting his whole life. But after this, he refuses to go into the woods alone. It was during bow hunting season. He had set up a tree stand in a remote area he'd been scouting for weeks. The place was perfect. Deer tracks everywhere. Quiet. No other hunters around. He climbed up into his stand before sunrise and settled in. For the first few hours, everything was normal. Birds chirping, wind moving through the trees, that calm, familiar forest feeling. Then, around mid-morning, everything went quiet, not gradually, instantly. No birds, no wind, nothing. Jake said it felt like the entire forest just stopped, and then he heard it. A whistle. Short, sharp, unnatural. It came from somewhere behind him. He turned slowly, scanning the trees. Nothing. A few minutes passed. Then the whistle came again. Closer. Jake thought maybe it was another hunter, but something didn't make sense. Hunters don't whistle like that. Not out there. "Hello?" he called out. No answer. Then, the whistle came from directly below him. He looked down, and that's when he saw it. A man, standing at the base of the tree. But something was off. The man wasn't moving, not even slightly. Just standing there, staring straight ahead. Jake said the worst part was the face. It looked stretched, like the features didn't sit right. Eyes too wide, mouth slightly open. And then, slowly, the man tilted his head up. Their eyes met. Jake felt this overwhelming sense of dread, like every instinct in his body was screaming at him to run, but he couldn't move. Then the man smiled, too wide, too forced, and then he let out that whistle again. But this time, it didn't sound human. It was louder, sharper, almost like it came from something much bigger. Jake panicked. He grabbed his bow, nearly dropping it, and started climbing down as fast as he could. When he hit the ground, the man was gone. Just gone. No footsteps, no broken branches, nothing. Jake ran all the way back to his truck without stopping. Later that day, he went back with 2 friends to check the area. They found something at the base of the tree, footprints, but not just one set. There were multiple, all circling the tree, all barefoot, and all slightly different, like they didn't belong to the same person. Jake never went back there again. He says whatever was watching him wasn't alone. I found this story online a few years ago, and it stuck with me. The person claimed it happened during a solo hunting trip in a national forest. He had been tracking a deer late into the afternoon when he realized he'd gone farther than he intended. By the time he decided to head back, it was already getting dark. He tried retracing his steps, but the forest started to look unfamiliar. Every direction felt the same. That's when he realized he was lost. He kept walking, hoping to find a trail or some kind of landmark, but instead, he found something else. A small clearing. In the middle of it was a structure, not a cabin, not a shed, more like a pile of sticks and branches, shaped like a rough shelter. It looked old, abandoned, but something about it felt wrong. He should have kept walking, but curiosity got the better of him. He stepped into the clearing. That's when he noticed the smell. Rotten, thick, almost unbearable. He covered his nose and got closer to the structure. Inside, it was dark, too dark to see clearly, so he took out his flashlight and shined it inside. What he saw made his blood run cold. Bones, animal bones, and something else. Something that didn't look like it belonged to any animal. He backed away immediately. That's when he heard it, a branch snapping behind him. He turned around. Nothing. But then, from somewhere in the trees, a voice. Soft. Don't leave. He felt frozen. The voice sounded human, but weak, almost like it hadn't been used in a long time. Help me. It came from a different direction this time. He spun around, trying to locate it. Please. Now it was closer. Too close. He started backing away slowly. I can't see. The voice cracked, almost breaking. And then, I'm right here. Something moved in the shadows. Fast. He didn't wait. He turned and ran. Branches scratched at his face. His lungs burned, but he didn't stop. The voice followed him. Not footsteps, not movement, just the voice. Calling out, getting closer. Don't run. Stay. Help me. Finally, after what felt like hours, he stumbled onto a trail. And then, his truck. He got in, locked the doors, and didn't look back. But before he drove off, he heard it one last time. Right outside his window, clear as day. Why did you leave me? He sped out of there without thinking. The next day, he reported what he saw. Authorities searched the area. They found the clearing. They found the structure. But inside, there was nothing. No bones. No smell. No signs that anything had ever been there. Just empty ground, like it had all been wiped away. But the part that still haunts him is that when they checked his truck, there were handprints on the outside of the window from something that had been standing there, watching him.